Hey everyone, I'm Jo Muirhead and this is the Entrepreneurial Clinician Podcast. So welcome to the Entrepreneurial Clinician Podcast. I am your host, Jo Muirhead. And one of the most valuable lessons I have learned throughout my entrepreneurial health professional journey has been the importance for me of multiple streams of income. Now, I'm not saying that multiple streams of income are necessary to have a thriving health business, but for me, they've been incredibly important. And I know that there are a lot of health professionals out there in the world listening to this podcast right now who would agree with me. There are some who won't, and that's okay. We've already had that discussion. You're allowed to disagree with me. We just do disagreement respectfully. Remember that, people? Yeah, got it. So today we're going to be talking about professional speaking. So if you are a health professional and you've often wondered, how do I get onto a stage where I'm paid the big bucks? How do I get invited to speak at these really big peer-led conferences? How do I make it on the world stage? Then this is the podcast episode for you. Because today I am here with Krissy Martinez. She's in Australia with me right now. Woohoo! She is sitting in my office next to me right now. This is very cool. And she has been embarking on this journey of learning how to become a professional speaker. So I thought, as somebody who is just embarking on this journey, Krissy, I thought it'd be great for us to learn about what the challenges have been and what some of the surprises have potentially been. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here in Australia.
You are. It's very good. And no, there are no kangaroos jumping around on the floor right now. We haven't met any koalas in our backyard this morning. So Krissy, just before we get into why you chose professional speaking out of all the other types of income you could generate, where are you in the world? What do you do? Who do you serve? What are your current roles?
Before I became a speaker?
Correct.
Oh, well, I am the founder and CEO of PAX Therapy and Family Services. And I started as a marriage and family therapist, like probably a lot of you. And I have primarily served women with sexual abuse histories and borderline personality disorder.
Yeah, thank you for serving that population, because it's not a population I would feel very competent with at all. Okay, so of course Krissy has done the health professional thing where she's just given you a snippet of all the things that she does. So here's a little introduction that I prepared earlier for her. So Krissy is from Krissy Martinez is in California. She's a Californian-based therapist, come CEO, come mother of four, come professional speaker. Now, when I say CEO, I don't use that term lightly. How many staff have you currently got employed within PAX?
I think we have 20 staff.
Yeah. On 2 sites.
We have 2 offices in the same building and then one in a totally different location.
Yeah.
Far away.
Far away. And that's not far away LA driving time. That's just far away miles time.
Yeah. Yes.
And then the exciting thing that's happened this week is that you've had a request land in your inbox for a potentially another site that's already.
Oh, yeah. Very exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. But today we're going to talk about professional speaking. And I'm going to belabor the word professional because there are so many ways we can speak. And speaking can fulfill us in many different ways. Like most of my speaking is speaking to sell. And I'm very comfortable with that. Yes, I get asked to do keynotes and I say yes for some of them, but that primarily is not my goal. So can you help us understand what professional speaking actually is?
I would say that professional speaking is when that is the primary objective. Like the primary objective of your speaking is to send a message or give a message or get people engaged with a message that you get paid for on a very regular basis. Like people are seeking professional speakers out to speak to their audience on an issue or on a topic.
Yeah, great. That's so there's 2 things there. One is you've got to have a message that people want to hear.
Absolutely.
And you've got to get paid consistently for it.
Yes. I think like in the industry, they say 24 bookings per year, and you get to call yourself like a real professional speaker.
Yeah. And we're not trying to be facetious when we use words like professional or real speaking. We're not denigrating anybody. It's my intention in creating this podcast episode today is I have many, many health professionals coming to me going, Jo, I want to be a speaker like you. And I'm like, maybe you don't, because you possibly don't understand why and how I use speaking. But what they see is me up front with a crafted message that they've enjoyed, that they've been inspired by, which is one of the skills of a professional speaker. That's what I'm finding most people are wanting, but they're not understanding the different ways that speaking turns up. So what is it not? Like, what was some of the surprises for you when you started investing? Because you've done training on this. It's not like you just woke up one day and went, ta-da, I can put this label on me.
It's not about you is what it's not. I think that's the biggest lesson, and the moment you think it's about you, you've lost. Like, you've lost your journey in being a speaker. It's really about the people that you're speaking to, and sure, it's about your message, but it is not about you. I don't know how I could explain that better.
No, I think that's very clear. Yeah. And a lot of us get lost. Now, I know for me, when I embarked on what I thought was going to be a professional speaking career, it was all about me. I wanted to be up there. I had a message. You need to know my message. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to do it because I'm going to be out the front on this stage. And that was a slap in the face the day I worked out that that's not how it works, because people weren't ready to hear my message. They didn't like the way I presented. God forbid. I was rejected several times.
That's an interesting point too, is that speaking is not just getting up and sharing your story. It's crafted. It's the emotions, the cadence, the tone is all something that you sit and practice in front of a camera for hours and hours. And you send it to people and they rip it apart and they tell you what it needs and what it doesn't need. And how do you generalize this? Goodbye jargon, goodbye any detailed message you ever had. Like, you need to have that depth of knowledge that, like, a lot of health professionals have, but what your audience doesn't want to know is that depth of your knowledge.
They don't know. They want to know they don't need to know how you got there.
Exactly. Yes. They don't want to know the psychological processes involved. They just want to know those general, how do I generalize your message?
Yeah. How do I walk away from this 45-minute inspiring infotainment session with a tangible thing that can make a difference in my life?
Oh, that's another thing. When you said that, that's another thing that it is not. You do not want to give everything away. If you're a professional speaker, like if you're keynoting, you should not be giving them any kind of technical information. It's meant to inspire. It's meant to motivate. It is not meant to tell them a process or teach a process to somebody. And that was a big lesson for me too, because I always feel like I have to give value. And one of the biggest lessons in crafting my keynote has been make it so a 12-year-old can understand it, is the advice. Like, make it so anybody can understand this, and do not give a process. Do not teach them how to do something. That is not the purpose of the keynote. And that's definitely a lesson, because as a mental health professional, isn't that where my value is?
I love that you've brought this up, because so many health professionals get asked to speak at peer-led conferences or association-led conferences where everybody wants to attend and get their CEUs or their CPD, for those of us here in Australia. But to actually be eligible for a CEU or a CPD, we have to train. So there's a very, and that's one of the reasons, if I'm ever speaking in the USA, you don't get a CEO for attending where Jo is, because I just can't do that. Like, you either book me for a keynote or you book me to train. I can't do both in the same session. And helping conference conveners understand that. It's like, you've asked me to come and speak at your event because you want me to inspire and set the tone for your entire event. You do not want me getting up there teaching a process. I will bore your people senseless.
Yes.
You want me up there being so inspiring that everybody turns up the next day.
Yeah. You don't want me to get up and train on borderline personality disorder, even though my training and the depth of my knowledge comes from working with people with borderline personality disorder. I could get up, be inspirational and motivational, and never talk about borderline, despite it being the foundation for my message.
Great. That's brilliant. Oh, you're very succinct. And I think that's one of the skills that professional speaking teaches us, right? We take all of our verboseness, all of our proving everything, because, you know, we add citations to our citations.
Yep.
But the skill of crafting your message is becoming so succinct, and you know what you know, right? And
Yes.
Other people can say it's simplistic or it's superficial, and we're like, no, we actually understand what we're doing here.
It was okay, when I first started, I had a huge chip on my shoulder that led me to criticize people, huge people like Simon Sinek, and because I was like, this is ridiculous, this is so grade school level. But as I've become a speaker, I get it. I understand. It's not necessarily that it's grade school. It's that you have to inspire and motivate a larger group of people who aren't going to be able to, not that they're not able to, but in the time frame, be able to grasp and understand all of the underlying concepts of that quote unquote grade school idea.
Yeah. And it comes back to professional speaking is not training. They are two very different skill sets, equally as valuable, equally necessary. You've trained people ever since trained. I've trained people. I am much more comfortable as a trainer, right? That for me, that's it. I can turn up and train you on something. The speaking part takes so much more energy for me. I work on that thing for months. I am rehearsing that thing. My husband, you've heard him. He's about to leave to go and speak at an event on the other side of the country. He's been rehearsing for 2 days.
Yes.
And it's just like, this is what you need to do. You think that we're confident? It's because that's the amount of effort that it takes to actually craft a message and make sure it's going to land.
Yeah. The more natural a speaker sounds is because the more in depth they know their keynote. They know the timing, the cadence, they know the subject so well that they can read an audience and know, okay, I need to switch this story out with that story, and I need to adjust this time frame here, and they can do it on the fly.
Yeah.
So yeah, rehearsal, knowing what you're talking about, knowing the audience that you're going to see, because every audience is different, and being able to adjust and move in the moment.
Yes, that adjust and move in moment. And you might be somebody, like I speak to a lot of health professionals all over the world, but it's not until I am on that stage and I've started that I know how I'm going to have to adjust and change. And for somebody who likes to be in control, that was incredibly awkward. And for somebody who, like a lot of health professionals, I learned my health professional skills about a process, and I would always fall back on my process. With speaking, it felt incredibly vulnerable because the only person I could fall back on, the only skill I could fall back on was, I'm just going to work this out as we go. So that's why my slides now have a picture. And it's not for you, Krissy, it's to help me remember what I'm talking about. That's where I'm a bit selfish about my slides are for me, not for you.
Yeah, slides would usually, speakers don't have slides with words on them. So they're just pictures.
Yeah.
And I agree, they're probably just as reminders, or you're using it to tell a story and it's a good reminder of the story.
Yep. So it's nothing worse. I don't know if you've ever had this, looked out into the people, and I will try and make eye contact with people that I feel are going to give me some positive reinforcement. The worst thing is when I look out there and the first person I see is all closed up, arms folded, scowly look on their face, or they're on their phone. And it's like, I'm devastated. It's like, do you need me to tap dance? So yeah, you've got to pull that stuff out of your head as well and quickly move on. Oh, wow. So out of all of the multiple streams of income choices that you have, right? So you've sold yourself as, that sounds horrible, but you've sold yourself as a therapist. Oh, I have a whole story about the prostitution effect, but we won't go there for another day. You've built team, right? You've delivered training. What made you go, out of all the other things that I could do, I want to become a professional speaker?
Well, I love speaking. I enjoy training, and I have always enjoyed the stage. It's something I wanted to do. It's like a early childhood dream to be an actor, but you know, you don't go into it because money.
True.
Or that's at least what people tell you, so
Yeah.
few people will make it that you're like, okay, well, I might as well not try.
So do you see the irony in the fact that you became a
Yes.
therapist?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's really, I think it's like coming full circle to something that I know that I've always been good at, and finally believing in myself enough to say, no, this is possible.
Yeah,
I can
great.
do this.
Yeah, very cool. So when you made that decision and we talked about it, you decided to go and do some training. So tell us about your training. What did you go and do?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So I went to, I don't know, I'm gonna call it a class, but I guess it's like a program.
Yeah, it was more than one class. You did it for months.
Yeah, it was months. It was, I don't know, 4 months
Yeah,
long.
yeah.
Weekly homework. It was, and it was less about speaking itself and more about running the business as a speaker.
Great.
Which is a whole new kind of business that has been a journey. So, revamping your website. How do you present yourself? Who are you really talking to when you're trying to market and sell? What should a good keynote look like? Why would people rebook you? So it was really all about the process of creating a sustainable speaker business.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is probably not what you thought it was going to be, right?
No, it was not, but I obviously needed it.
Yeah. Which is why I recommended it. Yeah. Because people just think that because I've been around for a little while, or because I've got 1,000 followers over here on LinkedIn and Instagram, because you know me and you're friendly to me, you should pick me for your next event. And it's like, oh, wow. Number one, that's really arrogant.
Yeah.
And number two, why should somebody who has spent years building thousands and thousands and thousands of people in an audience choose you to represent them and then give you money for it? Like,
that's right.
We've got to understand that it's not just the people from the stage that we're speaking to. We've actually got to speak to that conference convener or the business owner or whoever it is. And we're going to say, this is how I solve your problem as a speaker. Yeah, you're good. You're nodding a lot, Krissy.
Yes,
good.
that is the main point, is really actually the audience is going to be there because the audience is there not for you. They're there for whatever event they're there for. So the people who you really want to connect with are the organizers, the HR directors, whoever is the people who do your events. In different industries, there are different people. So it's connecting with them and convincing them and getting them to trust that you're not going to muff up their event.
Yes. And that's exactly, you getting them, especially if you're an unknown quantity, right? This is why other speakers get paid the really big bucks, because, and when we say really big bucks, we're talking like $20,000 a session, right? That's what you've recently been told is the going rate. And I fell off my chair because I was like, well, that's increased since I did my speaker training. But then I was thinking about it, and like every person who thinks that they're an online influencer now thinks that they're a keynote speaker, and they're not. They can't be. They're two very, very different mediums with very different purposes, right?
Yes.
So if it took me let's say $100,000 to build an audience where I could get 300 people into a room, why would I trust somebody that I've never seen speak, who I have no clue if they're going to deliver, have no clue if they're going to be a little bit dramatic and needy in the lead up to my event that is stressing me out? That's why people get paid the big bucks, because I can trust you. I trust that you'll turn up, do the job, and not cause me a headache.
Yes, exactly. And if you can't do it, you'll probably help me find somebody who can.
Yes. Yeah. That connection piece is incredible. That's more about the speaking too. Like, you've got to build relationships and get connected.
This is a heavy relationship focused
industry
thing.
Industry. That's right. Well, let's think about the people that you did your program with are based here in Australia, but one of them is from the UK.
Yes.
And they're coaching and training people all over the world, and their connections are pretty phenomenal when you start looking at who they're connected to and the caliber of speaker that they bring on board. And I love, one of them has a what does he call himself? Is he a broker? No. What's Michael do? Like, you get on his speaker bureau thing.
He's a bureau, but I think he's switched completely to being an agent, but I don't know, I can,
Okay. So I can imagine a lot of people have gone to there thinking it's an automatic, I'll have my own agent.
oh no. You actually, and even with the bureaus, you have to sell to them actually more than you sell to a conference organizer.
Yeah.
And most bureaus will not give you attention unless you've booked a certain amount, and only if they've heard your name come. Like if you approach them and they've heard of you, then they might be interested in you. You can be in a bureau, but if they don't actually know you, you'll never get booked.
That's exactly right.
Just sit on their website. Yeah.
Yeah. So we really do need to be thinking about professional speaking as an entire business. It needs its own lead generation, its own sales process, as well as the craft of the speaking. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. So it's a lot more work. Did you work that out?
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Very cool. So do you think you could summarize one of the hardest lessons that you've had to face down? Because maybe you haven't learnt it yet. That was a big sigh.
Sales is the hardest thing to do for me. And that is, you have to know how to solve the problem and be confident that you're going to solve their problem. Whatever problem they have, you have to be confident that your message is going to solve it. So when you get on the phone, it's about taking the lead, which is contrary to how mental health professionals are trained.
Correct.
It's the client leads.
Yeah.
Well, not in this case.
No way.
Absolutely not. You better get on that phone. Oh, they didn't call you back. You better call them because it's on you. They don't care. They have 25, 30, 40 speakers trying to book that keynote. So you have to work. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very different. Yeah, you can't, there's no waiting for people to come around.
No waiting for people to come around at all. And no, they're not going to follow you up. They're not going to beg you. So if you're waiting for a contract and you haven't got one, chances are you need to supply it.
Oh, I mean, they're expecting you to supply a contract. They're not going to give you a contract. They're going to look at your contract and say, do I like this? Do I not? Can we change this? Can we change that? And you have to set boundaries. Yeah. So if you're bad at setting boundaries, you're going to get walked on.
Yes, you are going to get walked on. Yeah. Okay. So what's been the best thing so far about this journey for you?
It's fun.
Nice. We didn't know where that answer was going to go. We hadn't rehearsed that at all.
No. Yeah, it's fun. It's new. It's exciting because it's what I want to do. Yeah. Which is wild. When they first interviewed me for the program, they're like, well, what's your vision? And I was like, I don't know, like Tony Robbins. Yeah. And they're like, well, that takes like a decade to do. And I'm like, that's fine. Yeah. But that's the goal. And to see something that never was a reality, to have a clear path to it is exciting. Yeah. Yeah.
It is exciting. It's been exciting for me and the rest of our crew to watch you become this. It's just been wonderful. Okay. So who do you want to speak to and what do you want to speak to them about?
So I talk to leaders in the audience. I speak to leaders, helping them to get better accountability, innovation, and motivation through my process called the Core Leadership Vibe, which is based in values, identity, boundaries, and existential narrative. So it sounds complicated, but my message is really simple. But I have this entire system because from speaking also comes consulting. Yes. So you have that if you're worried about all the knowledge that you might have wasted time building, no, because there's also opportunities connected to speaking where you get to use that knowledge. So I think that's my goal, is helping leaders. So, but especially who's looking for my speaking, it's going to be HR directors who, it's on fire. HR directors are always putting out fires and they're tired of it. And they need help and support from the outside because they have no more spoons. They have no more spoons to put out any fire or energy to deal with anybody else's stuff. So that's where I come in. Yeah. And your process, when I've heard it, it might feel superficial, but when you sit with it for a little bit of time, you go, oh my God, that makes leadership and self-leadership so easy. But you start off with accountability and it's all, but by the time you've talked to accountability, people are eating out of your hands. And they're going, teach me more, Krissy, teach me more. I want to be accountable. And then they go, wait, what? What do I want?
And so if you can see for a HR director or somebody in a C-suite going, this person's going to come and inspire my people to be more accountable, you can see how Krissy's solving a problem there, right? It's not just coming to make my people feel good. It's like, I can now, as the HR director, go, so remember when Krissy came and spoke to us about the A, the I, and the M, and we need to start with the A, which is accountability. Hey, Bob, Jane, can we have a little discussion about accountability and what it looks like?
Yeah, and it's definitely, my process takes the leaders from external blame, like, look at my staff, they're lazy, they're this, they're that, to making it more of an internal process of, wait, what am I doing to promote these behaviors, or what am I doing to promote the behaviors that I want to see? And where is that connected? I mean, it's deep for those mental health professionals. It's like the processes underlying that are complicated and the theories are many, but it starts the process for them.
Correct. And that's what I was just about to say, because you raised a very clever point, which is, yeah, I'm a professional speaker, but I also know that that's going to lead to consulting.
Right.
Which is, in your case, if we tracked it, it was like Krissy goes and speaks at a conference and people are like, we need Krissy to come in and run 12 months of consulting to our emerging leaders. And then Krissy's in there going, well, I've just uncorked the really big Pandora's box. You now need an EAP service. Which packs can kind of run for you here? So for me, my speaking has always been about that business building component. I've just not enjoyed what you've gone through. So I don't make a business out of it. But you can see now that it leads all to the same places, which is the growth and development of your entire, you know, what are we going to brand?
That's what I'm going with. Yeah.
That's very cool. So for somebody who's listening to this in the car, or they're on their way to work, or they've just had, you know, a rejection, and they're feeling a bit like, no, the speaking thing, how can other people make it look so easy? What encouragement would you give them?
I mean, I think it's the same encouragement I give people starting out in practice, that it's a numbers game and you are going to get rejected. So get used to it. And it's okay. And also, a rejection today is not a rejection tomorrow. Correct. It's all rejection is a not right now. Yeah. And if you start to look at it that way, like some people who have helped me see, like, a rejection is not a no, it's a not right now. And so if you've been rejected recently, just know that it's just not right now. And it's okay, because in 6, 10, 12 months, a year, 3 years, those people will come back and want to connect with you. Yeah, very cool. Yeah. But we do, anyway, let's not talk about rejection. You can come back to Australia and we'll do another one about rejection. Okay. So a couple of things I want to chuck in here. Really important question. So get your listening ears on, everyone, because this is going to be mind-blowing. Krissy, what's your favorite coffee? I'd say, okay, I don't know if it's the same everywhere in the world, but an Americano with half and half. Okay, so she's been drinking flat whites since she's been in Australia, and there have been no complaints. So there we go. I think that's similar anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just was not walking up to an Australian barista and asking for that, because they would have been like, what? You stop talking to me. Although we did walk up to somebody yesterday who was speaking English, and I was like, oh crap, I need subtitles. Anywho, so how can people find you if they're like, I want to know more about Krissy Speaks, I want to know more about PAX Therapy, I want to watch Krissy's journey, I want to book Krissy for my next event? How do they get in touch with you?
My website at www.krissyspeaks.com. It's easy to remember.
Yes. Much better than putting the word entrepreneurial in a friggin' title. Excuse me. That's very cool. And for anyone who is listening who is not on my joemuirhead.com email list, but you are interested in learning more about speaking and how speaking can help you grow a business, build a business, raise your influence, get on my email list, because I am currently crafting with a couple of other people a introductory intensive type thing in the USA next May, where we're going to give people the opportunity to come and craft a message, get some collateral, understand what type of speaker you're going to be, and not launch your business, but at least get you started so you know where you fit into the world of speaking. But if you've got questions, if you've got comments, if you've got things you want to learn, come into the Future Proofing Health Professionals Facebook group, because Krissy's in there. And if you've got questions, she's going to answer them. And make sure you share this podcast with at least 3 people, because I was just bold enough to ask you to do that. Until next episode, go be your awesome self. Hey, Joe Muirhead here again. Thank you for watching this episode of The Entrepreneurial Clinician. It has been great to share guests, new information, and new ways of thinking with you. I trust that this episode today has inspired you and has helped you to reconnect to your sense of purpose as a health professional and a clinician. Before we move on, just want to remind you that these sessions, these episodes, are provided for educational purposes only. Nothing in these episodes is designed to be treatment specific or a specific recommendation about your health, your wellness, or your finances for your situation specifically. If you need assistance in any of these areas, please reach out to an appropriate professional for you to be able to access the help that you need. If you have enjoyed these episodes and would like to see more, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and make sure you leave me a comment below. And I look forward to bringing you more great, inspiring stories where I get to learn just as much as you do. Until next time, go be your awesome self.